Hello there, my fellow open world gamers. What's up? It's Robbie with Open World Games, and we are returning to OWG Weekly. It's a weekly series where we feature a discussion about a topic dedicated to open world games, and this time we're talking about Tom Clancy's The Division versus Ghost Recon Wildlands, and I am joined with Alex.
Hey.
And Caleb. And we are ready to go to talk about this. So we're going to start off with The Division, of course, because it's coming out sooner. I expect Ghost Recon to never come out, ever. It's going to take forever for them to get a release date down. But, you know, The Division is going to be an MMO, online only. And then also, Ghost Recon Wildlands is not being advertised as an MMO. It is being classified as a 4-player co-op experience in Ubi's largest open world ever. And, you know, there's no mention of PvP yet. I'm sure that they will bring that up at some point. I'm not too sure if it's going to be in the open world. But what are you guys most excited for? The MMO co-op PvP nature of The Division, or the Ghost Recon Wildlands exploration as a group of 4? And we could start out with Caleb.
You know, Wildlands lives in this weird spot. I've talked about it on Smartwatch, the podcast that me and Alex and a couple other people do about The Division, and where if you look at what Ubisoft has as far as Tom Clancy material, or not materials, but IP has. So Rainbow Six is a fast time to kill and very strategic, and you have to work together. Mm-hmm. And class based. The Division is, we don't know if you have to coordinate with people 100%. I played it. I think you do, but it doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's an option, and it's a slow time to kill, and you can create your own class. So they're kind of the yin and yang. And Ghost Recon Wildlands seems to just ride this perfect middle, where it is. I'm calling to say right now it's going to be online only, just like.
I bet you're right.
The Division. Most games of this size, just you can't avoid it. They're gonna have to host servers somewhere and do cloud saves and that kind of thing, just to keep the console's processing ability at a decent amount, you know, so that it runs smoothly. You get quality graphics out of it. I think there's gonna be a lot of similarities. I think a lot of people who play The Division are gonna end up playing Ghost Recon Wildlands because of the time frame between releases. I think by the time that Ghost Recon's out, people who love The Division are going to be ready for something new, and Wildlands is totally new.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, Alex, which one are you most excited for, The Division or Ghost Recon Wildlands at this point?
I am absolutely more excited for The Division.
Okay.
I think The Division is a little bit farther up my alley than Ghost Recon Wildlands is, and it's mostly because I enjoy the cooperative progression of MMORPGs. I've talked about this several times, both with you guys before and on other shows. I've been a long time MMO player. Mm-hmm. That's my staple, as far as that's my go-to type of game. And so The Division is kind of an offshoot of that in a way. It's got a lot of MMO like qualities to it, and or traditional MMO qualities. And I think that combined with the story and you know, everything they have going on there, it just seems to me personally. It's almost kind of tailor-made for me and where I'm at in my gaming career right now.
Okay.
You know?
Gaming career. We all have our gaming careers. I think that would work
lifelong.
Yeah. But it kills me that they announced Ghost Recon Wildlands. The reason why I said that is because I really feel like for a lot of people, it put The Division on the back burner. Mm-hmm. I think, honestly, I don't know. I think they should have waited until The Division was out to really announce Ghost Recon Wildlands, to let The Division have its moment of glory, because they are, you know, they're underneath the same umbrella, Ubisoft, but they're still competing products. You know, one's not a racing game like The Crew or whatever. They're both basically the same thing. In Ghost Recon Wildlands, where it really differs for me, both will have, you know, classless system where you can just basically gear up in any way you want. I imagine both will have extensive weapon customization, and of course the co-op element in the open world. But a lot of people have been asking me about The Division, will it have vehicles? And that's the thing about Ghost Recon Wildlands, is you're going to be able to do everything in it. Dirt bikes, helicopters, whatever, and I think that's going to be super appealing to a big audience. I'm one of those people, I'll be honest with you, the more and more I see of Ghost Recon Wildlands, I get so freaking excited just being able to take a helicopter wherever I want. Because, I come from Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3. All the Battlefield games I'm totally addicted with. And I always thought, man, it would be cool if we saw something like this in a true open world. I feel like Ghost Recon Wildlands is that. So I think it's tough for sure. And both of them look like they're lacking story.
I think that I don't think we know enough about the Division to say it lacks story.
Okay.
I think that
That's
the story,
true.
yeah, I think the story is going to be maybe not as straightforward. And it may be one of those things where there's a loose story that you can do, but you don't have to if you don't, you know what I mean? You're going to have to do certain things to unlock maybe the Dark Zone or something like that. But after that, I think a lot of it's going to be people who don't seek it out, don't participate in it, and people who do can find a wealth of things to do. I think the other thing they're saying is they may be able to upgrade and change the game as it goes on. At least that's what I've kind of gathered from it, is that they can add quests without us knowing about it, and all of a sudden you go into an area and now there's something new there. I feel like The Witcher 3 does that, and I don't think that's true. I think that just things unlock over time when you hit a level and all of a sudden there's a quest there. But, you're running around and all of a sudden there's a person with a quest that wasn't there before. And that makes it feel like these worlds are alive. And I'm really hoping that these ecosystems that we see in the Division will transcend that and kind of create this quote-unquote living world, whereas Ghost Recon, I don't know if it's going to do the same thing. Maybe it does, and that they're very similar in how this quote-unquote story unfolds. But
hopefully it doesn't have the exact ecosystem.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will. I think that
No, it won't.
You'll get missions from some sort of command center or something like that.
Yeah. But, Alex, do you think story is important in an MMO, or do you think it should be something where it's more in the background, like, I guess you could compare it to Dark Souls, Bloodborne, that sort of game?
I feel like with regards to the Division, for example, like Caleb was saying here a second ago, I would love to see. First off, yes, I think it's very important, but I think that it can also be executed in a multitude of manners. The story in Dark Souls and Demon Souls was there and actually very good.
Yeah,
it was just presented to you in a very strange way. It certainly wasn't an out there narrative right in front of you. And I think that the idea of the Division being able to be updated over time with new quests and new advancements to the story, which here's my pie in the sky dream, would be that is affected by sort of data that they collect from how we're playing the game, that they can then change the world in that way, which would be
cool.
great. I don't know if it'll happen, but that would be beautiful.
That would be badass.
But yeah, I think that it is important that you at least have some modicum of good storytelling and an easy way for people to access it, unlike games like Destiny, where the story was hidden in a lot of ways and difficult to come across
on
just
their
playing
website.
The game. Yeah.
That was so
playing
weird.
The game. I mean, if you're the type of person who say doesn't have a computer for whatever reason, but there are people that do that. And if for some reason you didn't download the app, you can't get the story. You have a console and you have the game, but you can't get the story. And I think that's a fatal mistake that I really hope the Division doesn't make. I want it to be in there, accessible, and not hard to find.
Sounds like it's going to be in there. It's not like you just said. It's not going to be a predominant force like single player games like The Witcher 3. I don't think, at least. But I would be blown away if you actually approached an NPC and it started up like a dialogue tree or something like that for an MMO. That would be pretty cool. That would blow me away for sure. Yeah, but do you guys think that announcing games too early can hurt their success? And Caleb, we haven't heard from you in a while. Go ahead and start speaking.
Yeah, we're Division guys for the most part, and that game was announced in 2013. Supposedly been worked on for 2 years prior to that. Now we're in 2015. It's not releasing until first quarter of 2016.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
Long wait.
I think that developers are trying to get the hype up. They're trying to create communities earlier around games, not knowing when the cycle is going to be complete and when they're going to have something that works. Because from my knowledge of listening to game developers, most of the time a game doesn't really make its form until the last 3 to 6 months of development.
Okay.
And that's why, if you look at Assassin's Creed, for example, the hype machine, the marketing machine doesn't really start going until about 2 to 3 months prior to release. And there's a reason for that. They don't have everything done.
Yeah, exactly. Like Fallout 4, they just announced their game and it's coming out in a few months. They announced it at the last second, which I really, really like. But Alex, what do you think about this whole announcing games 2 to 3 years early?
I understand it. I do understand it when these games are costing upwards of $200 million to develop and things like that. In the instance of like say GTA 5, I could be wrong. I'm not a numbers guy, but I want to say it was like 250 million to develop that game or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And so you that's hit or miss. That'll break a company if your game doesn't sell well. And so how do you sell games? You advertise them and you get the knowledge of that game out there. So yes, I understand it. But I also think it's a double-edged sword. I think that telling someone about a game 3 years before they're going to be able to buy it, it does a few things. Number one, it sets you up for disappointment. When a game comes out with a nice trailer and you see it and you go, wow, this is going to be amazing. Look at it, blah, blah, blah. And over time, if there are any downfalls, look at all the people who are upset over graphical downgrades and things like that. If there are any negative things from the first trailer you see, it just hurts you.
Yeah.
Then if you take the Nintendo aspect or the like you said Fallout a moment ago, when they announce games and they're coming out, they announce something that comes out that afternoon or is coming out in a few months or later this year.
Yeah.
I have a much better feeling about those games because I get to look at them. I get the initial hype, and I'm kind of able to maintain that Cloud9 feeling long enough to then buy the game. I don't have time to get upset about it. You know what I mean?
Yep, well said. Yeah, I really think that they need to consider. Like building hype is extremely important to a product, getting the word of mouth going. But I don't think it should take 3 years to do it or 2.5 years to do it. A year is more realistic. I can see a year being way more realistic for that. But another thing I wanted to bring up was the gameplay style for The Division versus Ghost Recon Wildlands. If you notice in The Division, it is 100% third person. And then you see Ghost Recon Wildlands, they switch to the iron sights to first person like Ghost Recon Future Soldier. What do you guys prefer with that one? And Alex, you go ahead and start. Or whoever.
I always prefer games that allow me to switch between the two, but it's going to depend heavily on the game mechanics. If I'm able to switch between first and third person, a la Skyrim, or to take another Elder Scrolls game, the Elder Scrolls Online, you can zoom in for a first person view. You can in games where accuracy is involved with ranged weapons, that helps you a whole lot, like you were saying with iron sights. But at the same time, a more cinematic view from third person over the shoulder is always welcome, so long as the animation's there and it's done well.
Yeah, exactly. Animation's key.
It's kind of 50-50 for me. I mean, I really enjoy both, and I think they both have a place in almost every game. I think that they're, if you're using a ranged combat, a first-person view is kind of good to have around.
Yeah. I see it for snipers being extremely useful for scoping. Of course, I think The Division will have scopes where you zoom in. But Alex, what do you prefer? I mean, Caleb, I'm looking at what do you prefer?
I like the option of going into, basically into scope mode. I do like third person more because it makes me feel like it makes me more attached to my character, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah.
I like being able to see my characters. I like playing dress up a little bit. Okay.
I know, seeing the customizable gear. That's the thing about Destiny. You can't see what you've done. It's so rewarding to see your character for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can't snipe if in the Division and what we played at E3, sniping doesn't really exist because I don't think it really fits into RPG mechanics, and this game is more of an RPG than Destiny. So in that sense, I wish it was there in one side, but on the other, I understand why it's not, and I think it's going to turn people off. And I think other people are going to learn to appreciate it. Maybe one of the things you just have to try it. You got to try it.
I didn't even notice that. Like with the DMR, I was, rocking the DMR, and I didn't notice any scoping. But I don't think I had a scope. I think I was just using the iron sights, so I'm not too sure.
No, I tried zooming. I tried zooming in, and there was no scope. And the question was asked during the demo, and they said no scoping. There's no scope.
Okay. Did they bring up anything about like if you'll be able to attach a scope and then zoom in, or?
That's a possibility. It's not that I'm aware of, though.
Okay, that'll be interesting. So snipers out there, be warned. It might not be a sniper game, but I'm sure some sort of sniping will make it in there. But as always, leave your comments down below. Let us know what game you are anticipating the most, The Division or Ghost Recon Wildlands. I've noticed a lot of you are going over to the Ghost Recon Wildlands simply because of those vehicles, and I can completely understand what you guys are doing there. But honestly, I think for me personally, it's tied, and you two are for the Division. You really cannot wait for that game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but as always, guys, Caleb and Alex, thank you so much for joining me, and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.